All right, let's talk about Don Lemon. So it turns out Don Lemon was going to get a show on Twitter. And then he made a mistake. What is that mistake? Well, he interviewed Elon Musk, and Elon Musk didn't like the interview. Don Lemon says that Elon Musk has canceled his X deal because he didn't like his interview. Here's the statement from him. Elon Musk has canceled the partnership I had with X, which they announced as a part of their public commitment to amplifying more diverse voices on their platform. He informed me of his decision hours after an interview I conducted with him on Friday. That interview will remain the premiere episode of the Don Lemon Show on Monday, March 18th. Elon publicly encouraged me to join X with a new show, saying I have his full support and that his digital town square is for all. He and his team pursued the deal in numerous conversations and made significant commitments about the support X would provide for the show. I made the decision to work with them in a unique partnership that I believe would ultimately assure that my work would be available to most people in the largest possible venue. I took Elon and his management team's word that they, for the first time, were interested in working directly with new and diverse voices. You're dumb. Sorry, Don. Not very smart of you to think that the fragile ego of a billionaire could not be tickled in this direction. Like, the fuck are you thinking? He is most famously the biggest thin-skinned man-child. He also was fucking bullied into buying Twitter. So, something to consider. It wasn't because he genuinely had a firmly held commitment to fucking free speech. Why would anybody ever agree? Like, why would anybody ever believe Elon at face value? I just don't understand it. How do liberals get duped by the dumbest con men? Who, Trump or Musk? I mean, they're both one and the same in many respects, but Elon is incredibly fragile and incredibly thin-skinned. He has done zero things to make anyone believe that he is interested in free speech. He's, as a matter of fact, done the exact opposite since the beginning. Okay? Since the beginning, since he purged Twitter, every single thing that he's done has been literally against free speech, constantly positioning free speech as paid speech, where you can be paid, where you can pay Twitter to be heard, creating the most predictable outcome, making this platform incredibly fucking stupid because the replies that get elevated are not the most creative ones, but instead blue check marks. I have a close friend who's a massive Elon fan. He thinks he's insanely smart for creating a rocket ship and building Tesla cars. Yeah, good luck with your friend. There were no restrictions on an interview that he willingly agreed to, and my questions were respectful and wide-ranging, covering everything from SpaceX to the presidential election. We had a good conversation. Clearly, he felt differently. His commitment to a global town square, where all questions we asked and all ideas can be shared, seemed not to include questions of him from people like me. Our conversation will be available on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, and X. This will be just the first of many episodes of the Don Lemon Show. While Elon goes back on his word, I will be doubling down on my commitment to free speech and cannot wait to get started. Yo, Hasan, just got off my shitty 9 to 5, making 30 hours. You definitely have it harder than me. What the fuck? I can't believe these motherfuckers still come in here and argue against the point that I didn't make. It's so crazy. Like, literally, while we are currently in the process of talking, I'm going to unban this guy. While we're in the process of talking about like an actual take that will impact his life legitimately, made by a dude with infinitely more social and political capital, Ben Shapiro, talking about how he wants to fucking raise the retirement age, this dummy still thinks I'm his fucking villain. It blows my mind. Okay? I'll be honest with you, brother. It don't matter what your opinion is of me. I still want you to get fucking health care. I still want you to have a meaningful life. I still want you to have better workplace protections. And I still want you to get paid better. Okay? Don't matter. Anyway. What? I know you have probably answered this, but why do you stream on Twitch when you consider yourself socialist? Isn't it counterintuitive to provide a revenue to a platform structured around a capitalist mindset? Yeah. This is a great question, and I will answer it for the 7 millionth time, really. There are no platforms that are not structured around an anti-capitalist mindset. This does not exist. But thank you. There is no way to avoid working under the banner of Amazon. For example, if I were to, let's say, create my own platform, my limit would be stunted significantly. My reach would be stunted significantly. But not only that, but also beyond that, I would still have to utilize AWS. AWS is owned by Amazon. AWS is like 40% of the internet. So you see it as a trade-off. I see it as something that is impossible to avoid. It's not simply a trade-off. It is impossible to avoid. It's not a real request or a real consideration. It's not like there is a way that you could start your own streaming service, even if your reach was stunted. There is no real way that you could start your streaming service that would be devoid of unethical mechanisms of production. It's basically the same principle that goes back to, you say you're a socialist and yet you own an iPhone. It sounds good if you don't really think about it further. Sounds like a really valid argument. Except there is not a single piece of technological equipment that you can use that does not, for example, utilize conflict minerals. It's just not something that you can find in the world. It does not exist. This is known as hypocrisy fishing or hypocrisy baiting. I don't know if you're doing this deliberately, or maybe you are doing it without, genuinely trying to derail, but it is silly. It is just a unproductive way of arguing your position. So if there were additional choices out there that was completely devoid of like utilizing Amazon Web Service or Azure, which is also not exactly an ethical counter to AWS, okay, then there would be a trade-off. And I think that would be a understandable trade-off to continue streaming on a platform, even if there was a legitimate counter to it, a legitimate platform that I could use that would stunt my reach. Okay? In that situation, it would be considered a trade-off. It would be one that is understandable, in my opinion, because the higher purpose that I have is to max out on my reach. This is in some ways analogous to saying, oh, You want to unionize your workplace, or you claim you are a socialist, yet you are working at an Amazon shop. It doesn't make sense. You could choose not to work at Amazon. If you claim to be a socialist, why do you work at Amazon? Why do you want to make your workplace conditions better? The only alternative to this would be for me to live an ascetic lifestyle without streaming, without propagandizing the position of workers. I hope you understand where I am coming from. Okay? Anyway. For the people that always say, why not stream without a contract? That's a really interesting question. Why would I give more money to Amazon while I'm streaming? This is not an argument. Hello? Why would I give more money, what more of the revenue that I'm generating for Amazon? The fuck? Oh, dude, you claim to be a socialist and yet you have a contract with Twitch, with Amazon? Why don't you just give more? Why don't you let them take more of the revenue you generate? That would be the socialist thing. Is that what you think? Is there a way to tip Amazon directly? Why is hypocrisy so highly valued by these guys? People are complicated and never completely consistent in their position. That's normal. That is a whole different can of worms. I agree that like it is impossible to be devoid of complete hypocrisy. It's just like a very human thing. But I think I'm pretty, yeah, I sleep soundly at night, you know, pretty close. Also, those deals don't even exist anymore. Anyway, so my contract, once my contract is over, it's done. Ideological purity is so tedious. Y'all can talk shit about Don Lemon, who is clearly past his prime. Well, this isn't real ideological purity. This is just simply people claiming that I have certain positions and then claiming that I'm conflicted in my own positions that they have ascribed to me, values that they have ascribed to me that I do not carry, and then talking about it as though they are on our side, my side, in an effort to, you know, make a really silly, dumb argument. Except when everyone believes that argument due to Red Scare propaganda and people just being not that smart in general, myself included, I'm a very dumb person. It actually has staying power, which is why I sometimes do feel the need to cover it. But yes, 100% of the things that my haters use to quote unquote own me is entirely made up. It's either a value that they've ascribed to me or ascribed to socialism, which is nonsensical, or it is something that they completely made up, like my father is an oligarch and a multi-billionaire and I'm a trust fund baby or some shit. Like literally just entirely made up because in their minds, it makes no sense. It makes no sense that like that there's a dude who is successful, who is still preaching the same values that he believed in when he wasn't. It makes no sense. There must be a second reason. It must be because he's grifting. Your father is not an oligarch, genuinely unaware? Yes, my father is not an oligarch. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway. A lot of misinfo about you for sure. Yeah. It is what it is. Anyway, Kara Swisher, scoop. As I told him would happen, that's not a Kara Swisher hitting the as I told him in the scoop. That's pretty funny. Says the owner of this platform, Elon Musk, sent a terse text to his reps, contract terminated after an interview Lemon did with Musk last Friday. That was not to the adult toddler's liking, including questions about his ketamine use. The much touted multi-million-dollar deal was a pricey effort to attract high-profile media creators to X. Not so much when perpetually aggrieved billionaires in desperate need for constant affirmation run the place. So much for free speech. I had told Don that this is exactly what would occur, including at a recent book tour event in New York City for my memoir, Burn Book. He moderated, despite promises by Musk and CEO Linda Yaccarino, who extravagantly touted this deal at CES to advertisers. That this time was different. Well, it's, again, clear who was actually in charge. A thin-skinned rich dude who operates via petty whims and exhausting grievances, and who calls every fair question a hit piece. Who does that remind you of? By the way, X will have to pay out, so another unnecessary cost to a business going in the wrong direction. Yaccarino was jazz-handsing video efforts yesterday, knowing full well this had happened. It is another embarrassment for which she will not blame her meddling boss, but everyone else. Here is what Don Lemon had to say personally about the matter.
Hi, everyone. Elon Musk is mad at me. And I just put out a statement about what happened between him, me, and the interview that he is apparently so upset about. But make no mistake about this. This is going to be my first episode of the Don Lemon Show this coming Monday, March 18th. So make sure you tune in. This does not change anything about the show except for my relationship with Elon and X. And there's a whole lot that went down, and I'm going to tell you about in the coming days. I know, though, that many of you were not happy that I was doing this in the first place, and you told me so. I just want you to know that I did this deal because not only do I believe in free speech, but I believed that this was the best possible chance for the work that I'm doing to reach the largest amount of people. So speaking of free speech, right, I thought the first person interview, no brainer, Elon Musk, the man who calls himself a free speech absolutist. I asked him to do it. He willingly agreed to the interview. Throughout our conversation, I kept reiterating to him that although it was tense at times, I thought it was good for people to see and hear our exchange and that they would learn from our conversation, learn more about him, learn more about me. But apparently, free speech absolutism doesn't apply when it comes to questions about him from people like me. What did we talk about? Why is he so upset? Does he even have a reason to be upset?
Oh yeah, you know the shit's juicy. If you know the shit is juicy if CNN's letting Lemon live on air tonight. Don Lemon will be back on CNN tonight. He's joining Aaron Burnett at the top of the 7 p.m. hour with clips from his X interview with Elon Musk. Oh my God. Oh, that's great. Honestly.
Make sure you watch it on Monday on YouTube and everywhere you...
All people are sometimes hypocritical. Can't we just forgive this one for Elon? Socialist is when bad, capitalist is when good. What's your retort to that argument? Checkmate. Many people don't know, but Hasan's father is actually the king of oligarchs. Yeah. This is not hypocritical for Elon Musk, by the way. Elon Musk does not actually, he's just lying. What a lot of people mistake for hypocrisy, I know that that guy's baiting, but what a lot of people mistake for hypocrisy sometimes is just straight up lying. But because hypocrisy is seen as like even the appearance of hypocrisy is seen as the greatest evil that you can engage in online, people literally substitute hypocrisy for lying. Hello? He's just fucking lying about his free speech. His free speech absolutist principles. He's never had it. And it's like it's so funny because you know what, I remember this. Here's an analogy. I remember a time when cancel culture, or like talking about cancel culture, was so popular and so pervasive that I remember Marjorie Taylor Greene substituting the term death or murder with cancel culture when talking about abortions. Do you guys remember that? It literally is like, that is how popular it is to simply say hypocrisy baiting. It's more severe a charge on a person than simply saying they're fucking lying. Marjorie Taylor Greene once famously said we were doing cancel culture to babies. It's like, bro, just say murder. I thought murder is worse than cancel culture. No?
You listen to podcasts, and you can decide for yourself. You can even watch it on X, because I'm still going to post it there, and I'm sure others will as well.
Anyway, I think Don Lemon is doing the lib thing where they can try to catch conservatives being hypocritical without understanding that conservatives don't give a shit about what liberals perceive as hypocrisy. Yes. Fucking bum. Wait, what does this person say? Tomorrow will be the redraft of the definition of extremism in the UK Parliament. The amendment is set to include socialism and anti-fascism within the definition of extremism. It is being brought in to change the way protests are policed and how these political ideologies will be taught in schools. This will be yet another infringement on the right to protest in the UK. Pretty important. Would be great to see you cover it soon. Sorry if this is off topic. I did not know that that was going on, but I'm not surprised. The thing is, like, I need an article on it to read up a little bit more on it. But it's not surprising. Conservatives genuinely launched a conquest against the principle of anti-fascism a long time ago. And the thing about conservatives is that they never give up. Like, that was a real firmly held commitment. So they're not going to stop. And as I've said for many, many years, being against anti-fascism means you are a fascist. That's it. Liberals can present themselves as anti-fascist aesthetically all day, every day, but making things like this happen is just being pro-fascist. In the old school sense of the term, too. Like, it's not even a joke. If you are, as the government, putting forward a bill that bans anti-fascism as extremist speech, or regards anti-fascist speech as extremist speech, then you're just a fucking fascist in the oldest sense of the word.
We're going to have more clips from Lemon's interview with Musk in a moment. In a statement earlier today, Lemon writes in part, quote, "There were no restrictions on the interview that he willingly agreed to. We had a good conversation. Clearly, he felt differently. His commitment to a global town square where all questions can be asked and all ideas can be shared seems not to include questions of him from people like me." Now, CNN reached out to
I love the part where he says, from people like me. Like, dude, come on, dude. Yeah, it's because you're black. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Yeah. Elon Musk hates former CNN anchors. Like, Jesus Christ.
Now, this decision coming as Musk had, of course, publicly courted Lemon and has repeatedly made a commitment to free speech.
Maybe he means he's like, maybe he's talking about being a liberal. I don't know. But Elon Musk gives interviews to liberals all the time.
For there to be an inclusive arena for free speech where all, yeah.
Like, I can't think of any way in which Don Lemon is somehow
has become kind of the
like the little guy.
Square.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant.
I really can't emphasize this enough. We must protect free speech, and free speech only matters. It's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. It's damn annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like. That is a sign of a healthy, functioning free speech situation.
Again and again and again. And remember, Musk's X has over 250 million daily active users. 250 million people.
For a second, I thought they were talking about Grimes.
It is the
like,
town
damn,
square.
coming after my girl.
Joining me exclusively out front is Don Lemon. So, Don, you do this 90-minute-long interview with Musk. You sit down with him. This is the culmination. He had actively courted you to come on. One of his tweets: "Have you considered doing your show on this platform? Maybe worth a try. Audience is much bigger." It had been public. Then you had reached a deal. I'll talk about that later. Then he texts 24 hours after this 90-minute-long interview, which is the first of your show launching. He says, "Contract is canceled." What happened?
Yeah. First of all, it's good to see you, Aaron. Thank you for having me on. That's a good question for Elon Musk, quite frankly. What happened? I don't know. As I said in my statement, I felt really good about the interview. I said to him as we were doing the interview, and it was tense at moments, but you've been involved in tense interviews. Yep. I said to him, I think it's good that people see folks like you and I who have different worldviews come together and talk, as he says.
Don Lemon got kicked off
Free speech
CNN.
is only important when someone you don't like, or I would say someone who doesn't have your same point of view, or someone is, if they're allowed to speak freely and to say their point of view. Apparently that doesn't matter to Elon Musk. It's just for maybe talking points for him or rhetoric, because it doesn't seem to matter when it's about him, questions about him from people like me.
All right, so when you said that, I wanted to play some of the clips because some of them are illuminating. These are clips that you shared with us. This is a part of the conversation with Musk where you ask him about hate speech. Here it is.
Hate speech on the platform is up. Do you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform? That you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Democrats?
I don't have to answer these questions.
The Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Jewish people. Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think, do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
Definitely a guy.
In so many ways. All right,
definitely a guy who doesn't care
about that, Don. First, the Great Replacement Theory. Right. As you bring it up, you know, he has tweeted a tweet he shared: "Increasing illegals boost Dem voting power, causing them to recruit more. If Dems win President, House, and Senate, they'll grant citizenship to all illegals, and America will become a permanent one-party deep socialist state." Right? He has gone there directly. How much does he stand by these ideas?
Well, he didn't quite seem to understand that he did, originally he did that with Jewish people, sort of a Great Replacement Theory thing that he did with Jewish people, and he got in trouble and he had to go to Auschwitz and answer questions and apologize and go with Ben Shapiro. But he doesn't understand that sort of rhetoric that he talks about, the Great Replacement Theory and migrant invasion, that's what radicalized shooters use in their manifestos, those exact words.
the people who go and shoot up people, whether they be Latino people who live in Texas or black people who are in a supermarket in Buffalo or Jewish people who are worshiping, those people use the same rhetoric.
Yeah, his Auschwitz visit was his carbon offset for racism. Yeah, 100%. And anti-Semitism.
Or for Jewish people. And I wanted to know if he felt any responsibility as someone who has one of the largest social media and information platforms in the world.
250 million people.
A 250 million people. I think it's 455 or 500 million users.
It's so funny because he went right back to the Great Replacement theory, but instead now he's not saying Jews are responsible for it, but he's just still saying it's happening, which is funny because that's literally the Republican position. Like, he just retriangulated to be like, oops, shouldn't have gone too far. Shouldn't have said Jews are responsible for it, but it's definitely happening.
Have better moderation, because the things that I asked him about were not supposed to be on his platform according to his own rules, his own content rules. They were supposed to be removed from the platform. He says, well, we don't amplify them, but it doesn't matter. They're there. They're in the public forum and people can find them. Mm-hmm. Photographs or tweets of Jewish people depicting them with big noses and as caricatures. Of
Can you provide some context here? All I see is Elon talk about immigration. The Great Replacement is immigration. It's a right-wing fascist idea that, like, people are just invading the country. Non-white people are invading the country to repopulate the country into a non-white country, non-white majority country.
But one other thing he said there. He said, the only reason I'm doing this interview, Don, is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
No accountability.
Now, I'll be honest, Don. When this was announced, you were criticized. You know that. I know it. We all heard it. People were saying, why would you do this? Why would you go on X? And then they see your first interview is with, well, for 24 hours, but is with your boss. So what do you say to that criticism?
Well, first of all, he's not my boss, because X was only content. They were a distribution partner. So he never was my boss. He never had any editorial control of the show. The only reason I was doing it is because of distribution. I wanted what I was doing, my work, to be seen by the biggest number of people who could see it. Mm-hmm. And when you have, what did you say, 300 and however many millions of people a day, 500 million.
250 million, 250 million a day, yeah.
500 million weekly. That's the largest opportunity for people to be able to see what I do. And I truly believe in free speech. I may not agree with what you say, but I will fight for your right to say it. And so I took X, You
took him literally at all those sound bites you said about free speech.
Elon Musk, I took X, I took their managers at their words, because they pursued me so hard that they were going to put me on the platform and give me as much assistance and support as they promised. And they did not do that.
The chief of Twitter, who Elon Musk hired, Linda Yaccarino, when your deal was announced in January, she was on stage at the largest tech conference in the world in Las Vegas. She said, "We've been waiting for your return. Welcome, Don Lemon." So they said, in the context of Amplify, so they in trying to really understand the impact of what free speech is, you'll be able to post your show on Monday with this interview on Twitter. But it won't be the same because contract is canceled. Can you tell me why? In the context of the power of that platform, what changes?
Well, it's similar to your last question. Again, X was a distribution partner. There were, it was limited content for them. That
Don Lemon probably having such a hard time not being misogynistic at this interview.
Per week.
Back to his old ways.
And that was 24 hours, exclusive to them for 24 hours.
Right.
And then it went everywhere. My show is always going to go on every streaming platform.
But they were giving you marketing.
They were
giving you
marketing,
algorithmical amplification to make up a work, right? That's what it was about.
And that was also special content that that we partnered with advertisers that was going to be exclusive to X or exclusive to whatever different distribution partner that we were.
All right, so when you said talking to someone like me, Musk has a controversial history of tweets recently on a lot of issues, right, that involve race, ethnicity in America. DEI is one of them. So he responds to a post on X. The post was speculating that the IQ of black airline pilots is lower than Air Force graduates. So Musk responds, quote, "It will take an airplane crashing and killing hundreds of people for them."
Dude, he's been going so nutty. I think it's kind of crazy how normalized Elon Musk, like, open white supremacist takes are.
Which he has criticized in many tweets. I understand you talked about
It's
this
kind of
with him,
wild.
specifically with facts. What did he say?
He's been getting
He said
progressively more racist.
it would be awful if that were happening, if because of DEIs that the skies were less safe. He said the same thing about students in medical school. And I told him, as I pointed out to him, there was no evidence about that when it comes to the airlines. There was no evidence that was happening when it came to
Well, you said
schools.
that you were saying what percent of pilots are black?
Right, but it was also, just to give it context, we were talking about the Alaskan Airlines flight, right, where the door blew off, and a woman pilot landed it. The woman pilot landed that plane safely without incident, and Boeing took responsibility for it. So I did not understand his logic when he was talking.
Dude, 99% of the content that I watch on the stream, I disagree with. I hope you understand that.
It was because of a faulty door. So I think what Elon Musk is doing is getting information from right-wing bloggers or extremists.
And was that clear to you from what he said?
Yes, because when you go and look at the things that he points to, it is often, quite often, from extremist groups and extremist groups who are putting out information that is just false.
All right, let me play another clip. This is a clip where you actually talked about.
And by the way, Aaron, 5% of airline pilots in this country are African American. 5%. So it's completely bogus what he's saying, and he has a responsibility as the owner of the biggest social media.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make an argument, it's a bad one, I guess, because technically it's a correlation, not causation, but air travel is literally safer this year than it was last year and the year prior, and next year will be the safest, right? And yet in that time frame, we've had more black pilots. Now that's correlation. It's not causal, but if you wanted to counter that, you could just show that.
The ketamine prescription on the X platform was because I thought maybe this is something that could help other people. That's why I mentioned it. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I would say if someone has depression issues, they should consider talking to their doctor about ketamine instead of SSRIs.
Very civil conversation, but that is where it got very personal.
Well, it got personal, but I didn't put that out there. He has spoken very freely about his use of, those are prescription drugs, but about his use of ketamine. I would not have brought it up if it was...
on X, he posted it.
He posted it.
Yeah.
And so I would not have brought it up because that's someone's personal information. So I asked him about it. Also, it's no secret. His drug use, or alleged drug use, I should say, has been extensively written about it by very credible news organizations like the Wall Street Journal. And I asked him that, and he said, listen, I have not read the Wall Street Journal. I don't read the Wall Street Journal. If I don't have time to read about everything that people write about me, I would never get anything done. But also, if we remember, on Joe Rogan, he took a puff of marijuana, right? And he said it was just a joke, and I only took one puff. Elon Musk is responsible for satellites, for Starlink. He's responsible for Tesla. He's responsible for a number of different companies in the stock market. Yep. And I think that it is important for people to understand his mindset, whether he's using drugs illegally or not, and even if the ones using that's
he's
supposed to be
one of the most powerful people on the planet.
But ones that he's supposed to be, that he is using prescription.
I'm not gonna lie, I think this is kind of bullshit. Like, this is kind of a bullshit justification. Like, and it's only that way because we think of ketamine as like recreational, and we don't have that same attitude towards it. Like, if he was on fucking lithium for bipolar disorder or something, like, you wouldn't make this argument. It's ridiculous. Ketamine does have, as far as I understand, real uses for treating like really severe cases. Is pretty effective. It's just like relatively new, so people don't think about it. And then not relatively new, but like relatively new in human usage, I guess. Now I don't know what the doses are for Elon or whatever, but the fact that he's talking about it in this way is kind of shitty. I will admit.
That he tweets, and here's part of the conversation you had with him about Trump.
You recently met with Donald Trump in Florida. What did you guys talk about?
I was at a breakfast at a friend's place, and Donald Trump came by. That's it.
What did you discuss?
I don't. Let's just say he did most of the talking.
Did he ask you for money?
He didn't.
Are you going to loan him money to help pay his legal bills?
I'm not paying his legal bills in any way, shape, or form.
Did he ask you for a donation?
No.
Are you leaning towards anyone?
No.
You're not leaning towards anyone because you've been.
Well, I'm leaning away from Biden.
You're leaning.
The trademark laugh there,
Yeah.
which, by the way, in the context of the contract is canceled 24 hours after that interview, it just shows there was a lot of back and forth and give and take. What did you take away from his comments on politics?
Well, he says he's not going to endorse anyone now, but he may do it later. He says he's not going to give money to anyone now, but he may do it later. You never know with him. He may, be endorsing someone now on the platform. But, what's interesting to me in all of that and all these questions that, about what people are asking me, what I asked Elon, what happened, what did I do?
Yep.
During the course of that interview, I never raised my voice. I told him, I think this is important for people to hear, especially considering how the type of discourse that we're having in the country right now. And he supposedly says this is a public square for all. Maybe we're learning that a public square should not be privately owned by someone who doesn't think that there should be any moderation on that platform. So it was interesting because at the end, I could tell that he was upset and he was uncomfortable. It was tense. And I said, listen, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, I would go and have a beer and hash these things out. You and I do not disagree. You and I do not agree on much.
Yeah.
But I will fight for your right to be able to say what you want to say. That's what freedom of speech means to me.
A billionaire
And 24 hours
who
later.
owns
And 24
Twitter,
hours
by the
later,
way.
it
text
means
on.
freedom of speech does not mean, I guess, the same thing to him as it does to me.
Contract is canceled. Don, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone be able to hear part of these clips.
Listen,
and Don's
sir,
full interview with Elon Musk
you and
comes
I,
out on Monday.
we
You can
disagree
watch
on
the
a
Don Lemon
lot.
Show on YouTube.
Like methods
and
of
anywhere
killing poor
that
people.
you get your
Okay,
podcasts.
like the
Looking forward to hearing
mechanisms.
the whole thing.
Thank you, Aaron. Good to see you.